Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel Barnes, and I'm going to interview Kenya.
Hi, I'm Kenya. I am a senior at the University of Houston. I am 22 years old, and I was originally born in Guatemala, and I came to the United States when I was 2 years old.
Okay. So when you came here, did you know any English at all?
No, so I only spoke Spanish, and then I started speaking English when I started school. So I was 5.
So you started school at 5?
Yeah.
So were you in pre-K or kindergarten?
I started in pre-K.
Okay. Do you feel that it was easier for you to learn English when
Definitely.
you were so young?
Yeah, because I got such a long exposure. It wasn't like some other kids come to the U.S. and they're 8, 9 years old, sometimes even older, and it's a really big transition from speaking for 14 years, just speaking one language and having to switch to another language, and then so I thought it was really beneficial for me to start at a very very young age. You know how they say the younger you are, especially for children, to learn a different language. So.
Okay. And so at 5 years old, Spanish was obviously your dominant language. Is it still your dominant language today?
No, my dominant language today is English. I speak English throughout my entire day, even with my mom. I will speak Spanish with her, but it's very broken Spanish, and I still put in some English words in there.
So what part of language has been the most difficult for you?
I guess for me it would be having only assistance in school. So when I was younger, my mom wouldn't be able to help me with homework, or my dad wouldn't be able to help me with homework. So I guess for me it was just not receiving assistance outside of school and just learning English in school, and then having to go home and transition to a different language and having to translate it in my head by myself when I was doing homework.
So that was really hard. Did you have any siblings?
I have one sister, but she actually started. So she spoke Spanish longer than I did because she didn't start school until she was in first grade. So she was 6, 7. So she spoke Spanish up until 6, 7 years old. So then when she started school, she was still only speaking Spanish only. So she didn't have when I started when I was 5. So I started earlier than her. Yeah. So she was still learning as well.
So what kind of bilingual do you think you are?
I think that I'm an early bilingual because since I started so young, I got to acquire my L1 and my L2 so young. And I think another one is called coordinate bilingual. And it's basically the textbook says that I learned the languages in different environments. So learning Spanish, I learned it around my family. And then learning English, I basically learned it from school and just in an educational environment.
What are some things that you avoid saying or writing in your second language?
So my first language was Spanish, and my second language is English. So for me, I don't really avoid anything in English or writing since English is my dominant language. And I do speak Spanish at home, or if I try to translate for somebody else, like my mom or a friend. But writing or speaking wise, I am more comfortable speaking English than Spanish. So I don't believe that I avoid writing or saying anything in English because I'm most comfortable speaking English.
Okay. Are your parents fluent
in English? No. My mom can understand it, but I have to talk to her very slowly, and they mostly understand it in the context of work. So let's say we're having a conversation, just a regular conversation, she would have a hard time keeping up. But if it has to do with her job and what she has to do, then she's mostly memorized the words that are associated with her job.
Okay.
In order to understand.
Yeah. Okay. So, how did some teachers in math or science classes contribute to your second language learning?
What I do remember is being in ESL from pre-K to second grade. So I don't really remember a lot, but I do remember just a lot of translating. And the one thing that did help me was that I was in a school where it was mostly African American and Hispanic. So I wasn't the only one that just had my first language was Spanish. I had other students in my class who spoke Spanish too. So I think that made it easier for the teacher and for the students as well, so we can collaborate. But just hand gestures, translating and reading the problems repeatedly.
Okay. So how did school and socializing with your classmates influence your second language learning?
Well, since it influenced my second language learning English a lot, since I did spend a lot of time in school, and I also had extracurricular activities. I was in cheer and in dance, so I got even more exposure to English than going home and just speaking Spanish. So I guess just having more friends I guess just being around the language even more and having activities at the end of the day of school influenced my vocabulary and understanding of English.
And you mentioned that a lot of your classmates also spoke another language, so that helped. Do you think that English speakers help you the most in your second language learning?
Yes, because you learn from your peers. You learn the different words they say, and then you're curious and you want to see what those words are about. So even now, I just learn from my friends and just the different vocabulary that they have. So I would say that's how they influence my second language learning, my English.
Okay. Do you think that they're still helping you today?
Yes. Like I said, there are some words I don't know. I try to expand my vocabulary as much as I can just by reading or just listening to conversations. So I would say they still help me today.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.